So I want you to just take a second and imagine a really painfully familiar scenario. I mean, it is something that happens to an overwhelming majority of
Oh, I
us.
bet I know exactly where this is going.
Right. So it begins before you're even like fully conscious. You are
Mm.
lying in bed, just sort of existing in that hazy borderland between sleep and waking up.
Yeah, that weird middle state.
Exactly. And then there is this sudden, jarring realization that the alarm has completely failed to sound.
Oh, no. That is the worst feeling in the world.
It really is. You open your eyes and immediately, like before you can even formulate a single coherent sentence, there is this visceral physical rush of adrenaline.
Yeah, and it's not the good kind of adrenaline either.
No, not at all. It's not that energizing, let's tackle the day kind of feeling. It is a cold, sharp jolt of just sheer panic. Your heart rate doubles in a solitary instant. You are already behind.
Exactly. The whole cycle of the day has just begun with this massive, undeniable deficit. Your nervous system is instantly thrown into a state of acute survival.
Right, right. And from that solitary spark of panic, this relentless cascade just begins.
Yeah, the dominoes start falling.
They really do. You hurry through a morning routine that feels, honestly, less like a purposeful start to the day and more like a frantic, blurry montage.
Just going through the motions as fast as possible.
Yeah, and think about the sensory details of that rush. You feel the sharp sting of cold water in a rushed shower because you honestly cannot even afford the luxury of waiting for the pipes to warm up.
You're just in and out.
Exactly. You grab a mere fragment of a meal, like a piece of dry toast or a handful of cereal, and you consume it standing up, all while simultaneously trying to, locate your keys and shove your feet into your shoes.
You aren't really experiencing your morning at that point. You're merely surviving it.
Yes, surviving is the exact word.
Because you're simply reacting to immediate threats. There's absolutely no intentionality in that state, you
Yeah.
know? It's just raw, unguided momentum.
Wow, yeah. Unguided momentum.
And the wild thing is, your brain is treating a delayed schedule with the exact same physiological intensity as if a physical predator were chasing you through a forest.
That is so crazy to think about, but it feels so true. And then, of course, comes the commute, which is just, well, a masterclass in modern frustration.
Absolutely.
I want you to really feel the sensory overload of this transit. You are gripping the steering wheel, right? Your knuckles are practically white.
Totally tense.
Yeah. And all you see in front of you is this glaring, obnoxious red of a halting signal that simply refuses to change.
It feels intentional, doesn't it?
It feels almost malicious, like the universe itself is actively conspiring to delay you. And then a horn blares sharply from behind as another traveler cuts you off, their vehicle swerving entirely too close to
The
yours.
pulse just quickens all over again.
Exactly. Your jaw is clenched. And the moment you finally arrive at your destination, before you can even take a single stabilizing breath or take off your coat, there are the immediate heavy demands of a superior or a client.
The cascade is just utterly relentless.
It is. It really is.
It's this profound, continuous assault on the human nervous system. I mean, we were simply not designed to sustain that level of hypervigilance for an endless tide of hours.
No, we definitely weren't.
And the hitter consequence of this cascade, the part we rarely actually acknowledge until it's far too late, happens at the very end of the cycle.
At night, right?
Yes. Fast forward to the evening. By the time you finally lay your head down on the pillow, your physical body is just exhausted. Your muscles ache. Your eyes are heavy. You are completely depleted.
But your mind.
Exactly. Your mind feels like a deafening, chaotic festival of sound.
It's the ultimate cruel irony of modern existence. Like, your bones are practically begging for rest, you crave peace more than anything in the world, but your thoughts are just this swirling tempest.
Yeah, you just want to turn it off.
You really do. You want to reach into your skull, flip a switch, and power down the machinery. But it feels fundamentally impossible to simply turn the mind off.
So you just lie there.
Right, you stare at the ceiling while your brain decides to play, like a high-definition highlight reel of a minor social mistake you made an endless number of eras ago.
And this mechanical failure to power down is exactly what we're exploring today.
I am so ready for this.
Yeah, we are going to map the hidden architecture of the chaotic mind, because we really need to understand why this inability to find quiet is not some personal failing.
That's such a relief to hear, honestly.
It's true. It is not a personality flaw. It's not because you lack discipline. It is, in fact, a mechanical failure of cognitive processing.
So, our mission for this conversation is to really uncover the profound biological and psychological power of absolute stillness.
Yes, that is the goal.
We want to decode why our brains feel like they're constantly overflowing, why we feel so heavy, and much more importantly, how to actually empty that internal vessel.
Because the fundamental premise we have to establish right now, at the dawn of this exploration, is this. Accessing your highest human potential, that infinite inner dimension of clarity and creativity, it requires crossing a bridge of pure silence.
A bridge of pure silence. I love that.
It's an ancient, unyielding principle of the human condition. I mean, until the internal waters are entirely calm, the vessel of your life cannot possibly reach its true intended destination.
Because you can't navigate clearly through a storm of your own making.
Precisely.
Okay, let's unpack this. We need to start with the architecture of the unprocessed mind. And this begins with a concept that, honestly, it completely shifted my perspective the moment I first encountered it.
Oh, I know the one you mean.
Yeah, we need to talk about the illusion of the finished thought.
It is such a pervasive, almost universal illusion. We tend to believe that our thoughts operate like sentences in a book. You know, they have a clear beginning, a middle, and a definitive end marked by a period.
Right, like we just neatly wrap them up.
Exactly. But the reality is that overthinking, that deafening nighttime festival we just described, is fundamentally the accumulation of unprocessed, unfinished thoughts.
Then finished thoughts. Okay.
Because in our rapid, intensely demanding modern existence, a thought is rarely, if ever, allowed to actually finish its natural life cycle.
Let's trace this back to that morning narrative we just walked through, because I think it perfectly illustrates this.
Let's do it.
So you wake up in a panic, the thought forms, clear as day, I am late, this is a total disaster, my superior is going to be furious.
A very heavy thought.
Very heavy. But before your mind can actually process the anxiety of being late, before it can rationalize the situation or soothe the panic or form a logical plan, that initial thought is abruptly interrupted.
By the next immediate task.
Right, by the urgent command. I must shower right now.
Precisely. And so the emotional and cognitive loop of the first thought, that anxiety of being late, it is left entirely open.
Oh, wow.
The brain opened a file to process the emotion, but you literally slam the drawer shut to jump into the shower.
And then the I must shower and figure out what to wear thought is violently severed by I must navigate this incredibly dense traffic.
It just keeps stacking.
It does. And that thought is hijacked by why is that person honking at me? Did I drift out of my lane?
None of those loops close.
Right. None of these emotional and mental loops are ever brought to a conclusion. They're just stacked rapidly on top of one another.
It's an exhausting way to operate.
But here's where I have to push back a little, or at least ask the question that I know is bubbling up for anyone listening right now.
Go for it.
Isn't a forgotten thought just gone? Like
Yeah.
if I get deeply distracted by aggressive traffic, I genuinely forget that I was worried about the temperature of my shower or the fact that I didn't finish my coast.
That makes total sense intuitively.
Doesn't the human mind just naturally clear out the old, irrelevant data to make room for the new emergency?
That's a very logical assumption, especially today, because it's based on how we interact with our technology.
Like clearing a cache or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We assume the human mind has this automatic trash bin that casually empties itself in the background when we get distracted. We think memory works like a digital hard drive.
But it doesn't.
No, the organic biological architecture of human consciousness does not work like a computer. Those interrupted thoughts, those spikes of adrenaline, those flashes of frustration, they absolutely do not evaporate just because your conscious attention shifted.
Man, to me it feels like trying to carry a vast constellation of heavy, jagged stones across a rushing, slippery river.
That is a fantastic visual.
Yeah, you start with your arms completely full of stones, which are your morning worries. And as you try to pick up new stones along the way, like new immediate tasks, new messages, new conflicts at work, you inevitably have to drop some of the old ones.
Because you literally lack the capacity to hold them all.
Exactly. But those drop stones don't just vanish into thin air. They fall right down into the riverbed.
And they stay there.
Yes. And over a passage of time, they dramatically alter the current of the water. The river now has to flow over, under, and around them, creating this chaotic turbulence.
That's a phenomenal, highly accurate analogy for cognitive load. Those dropped stones form what we can basically call the mind's endless internal archive.
The internal archive.
Yeah. When thoughts are interrupted by the relentless pace of existence, they are not deleted. They are simply shoved into the dark, unlit back rooms of the subconscious mind.
Out of sight, out of mind, or so we think.
Exactly. They go into this massive, highly disorganized internal filing cabinet,
Hmm.
and the brain holds on to them because biologically an unfinished task is categorized as a potential future threat.
Oh, wow. So your brain thinks that unfinished thought about the toast might actually kill you later.
In a primitive sense, yes.
And because the pace of our lives never actually slows down, we never return to that archive to sort the files.
We never get the chance.
We never go back to say, hey, that moment of panic at the traffic light, we survived it. We can let that go now.
Exactly. We never close the loops. And over an endless tide of days, seasons, and eventually years, this internal archive becomes critically overflowing.
I could feel the weight of that just talking about it.
Right. And the natural, inevitable result of this massive accumulation is a highly specific psychological phenomenon. It is known as loud unawareness.
Loud unawareness. Wow. That phrase alone feels incredibly heavy.
It's descriptive, isn't it?
It perfectly captures that buzzing feeling in the back of your skull.
It is the perfect descriptor for the modern condition. It's a state where you are entirely painfully aware that your mind is screaming.
You can feel the intense volume.
Yes, the raw pressure of it right against your temples. But because there is such an overwhelming magnitude of overlapping voices, so many dropped stones altering the mental current, it becomes utterly impossible to distinguish a single clear sentence.
It's just static.
Just static, a roar of unfinished business and unresolved emotion.
I think this is something almost everyone listening can connect to instantly. Think about a Sunday afternoon. You finally have a moment.
A rare moment of downtime.
Yeah. You sit down on a comfortable sofa, the house is quiet, you're looking out the window, and yet you feel utterly incomprehensibly exhausted.
Your body is resting, but your brain is running a marathon.
Exactly. Your physical body is completely at rest, but your mental architecture is straining under the immense, invisible weight of a vast constellation of open, unresolved loops.
You are burning a massive amount of internal fuel.
Just maintaining the storage facility of your unprocessed life.
You're essentially standing in the middle of a crowded, echoing room where a massive crowd of people are shouting a multitude of urgent questions at you simultaneously.
And you are sitting there trying to convince yourself that you are relaxing.
Which is a biologically impossible state of being.
Yeah.
And this relentless internal static leads us to a critical misunderstanding of how our internal state interacts with our external reality.
Right, which brings us to the mechanics of how we interact with the world around us. And here is where it gets really fascinating.
It really does.
Because there's a massive philosophical and psychological misunderstanding that needs to be clarified. We hear it all the time in modern circles, this idea that thoughts become things.
Ah, yes, that old saying.
There's this notion that simply having a passing thought is enough to shape your entire reality. It sounds a bit mystical, honestly, almost a bit magical.
Yes, and it's a vast oversimplification, one that is deeply frustrating for many people who try to change their circumstances solely through forced positive thinking.
Because they just think happy thoughts and nothing happens.
Exactly. Pure thoughts alone, like just the mere electrical firing of a transient idea in the cerebral cortex, they do not shape reality in isolation.
Okay, so what is missing?
A passing thought is weak. It's the intense emotional charge behind a thought that acts as the anchor. It's the emotion that dictates what your brain actually pays attention to.
Okay, let's ground this a bit. Explain how an emotion anchors a thought without making it sound like we're casting spells or something.
Fair enough. Think of a thought as a completely neutral, lightweight blueprint.
Okay, blueprint.
A blueprint, by itself, cannot build a house. It has no physical substance. It's just a schematic.
Right, you need materials.
Exactly. It's the emotion that provides the raw material, the gravity, the heavy anchoring weight. In neurological terms, when you attach a strong emotion to a thought, the emotional center of your brain, the amygdala, flags that thought as critically important for your survival.
Oh, so it acts like a giant spotlight.
Exactly. It tells your brain's filtering system to aggressively look for more evidence of that exact thought in the real world.
So if we go back to our friend sitting at that glaring red traffic signal, the thought, I am going to be late, is just the neutral blueprint.
Just words in the mind.
But the deep, burning frustration in the chest, the anxious dread tightening the throat, the spike of cortisol, that emotional cocktail is the heavy weight attaching itself to the thought.
Precisely. Emotions are the engine of our perception. They alter the fundamental frequency of your focus.
They tune your radar.
Yes. When you infuse a thought with an intensely heavy emotion, like dread, furious anger, or even profound joy, you're no longer just passively thinking. You are actively programming your brain's radar.
So you start seeing it everywhere.
You are fundamentally directing your attention to pull matching physical conditions out of your environment. If you are vibrating with anger, your brain will expertly delete all the neutral or positive interactions in your day.
And you just hyper-focus on the bad stuff.
You will hyper-focus exclusively on the person who bumped into you, or the message with a slightly rude tone.
There's this invisible thread connecting our internal emotional landscape to how we literally perceive the external environment.
It's all connected.
We tend to view the world as something entirely separate from us, like a static stage that we're simply walking across.
But it's not static at all.
No. The reality is that the stage is continuously morphing, shifting, and highlighting different props in direct response to the emotional weight we're currently carrying.
Which is exactly why the concept of the overflowing internal archive, that loud unawareness we discussed, is not just exhausting. It is profoundly dangerous to our well-being.
Dangerous because of what it's manifesting.
Yes. If your mental archive is overflowing with unresolved static, you have absolutely no idea what emotionally charged thoughts are brewing in the dark back rooms of your mind.
Because it's all just noise to you at that point.
Exactly.
The volume is so high, you're completely disconnected from the actual specific contents of your own subconscious.
Exactly. You might be harboring deep, intensely unprocessed resentment from a brief interaction that happened a multitude of days ago.
Just sitting there festering.
Or you might have simmering, unacknowledged anxiety about a vague future event. And these loops are left wide open in the back of your mind, continuously generating a heavy, anxious, emotional undercurrent.
And that undercurrent is filtering your reality.
Actively filtering it, making you hyper-reactive, irritable, and prone to conflict. And the worst part is, you are completely blind to the cause, because the front of your mind is entirely preoccupied with immediate, mundane survival tasks.
Let me make sure I'm completely tracking this, because this is a huge paradigm shift.
It really reframes everything.
It does. What does this mean when we look at the chaotic, frustrating events that seem to just, well, happen to us?
Like bad luck.
Right. When a sudden argument breaks out or a minor inconvenience spirals into a disastrous afternoon, our immediate natural instinct is to throw our hands up, play the victim, and ask, why is this happening to me?
And the most vital, transformative realization you can ever arrive at is that it is not happening to you. It is happening through you.
Happening through you. That is powerful.
The external world, especially the way people react to you and the conflicts you find yourself entangled in, is merely acting as a mirror.
A mirror of the archive.
Exactly. It is reflecting the chaotic, unprocessed emotional static of your overflowing archive. You can't recognize the reflection in the mirror because you are entirely blind to the internal original.
That completely removes the concept of being a passive victim of random circumstance.
It puts the responsibility back on you.
If your internal state is a chaotic tempest of a vast constellation of unfinished, anxious thoughts, your tone of voice, your body language, your hyper-defensive reactions, they all broadcast that chaos to everyone around you.
You're practically shouting it without opening your mouth.
The reality that materializes in your daily interactions has no choice but to match that friction. I mean, a calm, peaceful resolution simply cannot attach itself to a chaotic, aggressive posture.
It defies the basic mechanics of human interaction and psychology. You cannot tune a radio dial to a station broadcasting heavy metal and act shocked when you don't hear a soothing classical symphony.
Your internal, unprocessed emotional state is the dial.
That is exactly it.
This makes me think of a highly specific, very curious, modern habit that I've noticed absolutely everywhere lately, and I will fully admit I'm completely guilty of doing this myself.
Oh, do tell.
Have you ever noticed people walking around busy areas or commuting on a crowded train wearing those little wireless earbuds? But if you look closely, or if you ask them, they are intentionally playing absolutely no sound through them.
Oh, the silent shield. Yes, it's an incredibly common, uniquely modern phenomena.
You just sit there, maybe squeezed on a subway car, feeling the physical pressure of the silicone tips in your ears. Your device is in your pocket, paused.
No music, no audio.
Nothing. You're simply using a piece of dormant technology as a physical barrier against the world.
It's fascinating.
It's like an unspoken visual signal to the rest of humanity that screams, do not engage with me, I am currently at maximum capacity.
When we analyze that specific behavior through the lens of cognitive load and the mental archive, it reveals something deeply poignant about our current society.
What does it tell us?
Walking around with dead earbuds isn't just a quirky preference for quiet. It is an instinctual, desperate cry for help from your own consciousness.
A cry for help. Wow. That's a powerful way to frame it.
It is the human mind begging for a sanctuary of silence. Think about what's happening internally. Your internal archive is screaming with loud unawareness.
The dropped stones are making a mess of the river.
Exactly. The turbulence is massive and exhausting. Your cognitive processing power is maxed out just keeping the anxiety at bay.
Right.
So to add even a single microscopic drop of external sensory input, like a stranger asking for directions, a loud advertisement, or the screeching rumble of the train tracks, it feels like it will cause the entire fragile structure of your sanity to violently collapse.
It's the ultimate real-world manifestation of an overflowing vessel. If the cup is full to the absolute brim, even a single drop of water will cause a spill.
Which brings us to an ancient, foundational principle of growth and transformation.
How to fix the vessel.
Exactly. To create a new reality, to experience new elevated conditions in your life, whether that's a new creative idea, a sense of peace, or a better relationship, one must first be able to receive them.
You need room for them.
The vessel must actually have space. But if your mind is an overflowing vessel, completely saturated right to the brim with the heavy, murky waters of anxiety, rushing, and thousands of unprocessed loops, there is simply no physical or psychological room left to pour anything new into it.
I really love that visual. Trying to force a brilliant new idea, a deep sense of gratitude, or a positive outlook into a mind that is already in a state of loud unawareness is utterly futile.
It's just not going to stick.
It feels like taking a beautiful pitcher of crystal clear, fresh Strif water and trying to pour it into a small cup that is already violently spilling over with thick, dark mud.
The fresh water just runs immediately off the sides, entirely wasted on the floor. Or, at best, it mixes with the mud and is instantly contaminated by the anxiety.
So the prerequisite to achieving any higher potential, any sense of deep clarity, or any significant shift in how we experience reality isn't adding more positive thoughts.
No, more adding is the opposite of what you need.
It isn't reading another book and cramming more concepts into the mud. It's establishing a balanced equilibrium. You have to literally stop pouring and start emptying.
You must clear the vessel. The archive has to be sorted. And that brings us to the threshold of the inner dimension, the actual practice of stillness.
Which is fascinating because when we talk about clearing the mind or finding peace today, modern society has somehow managed to turn doing nothing into an incredibly complicated, highly commodified theatrical production.
The theater of tranquility
Yes,
has become quite a lucrative industry, hasn't it?
it really has. I mean, think about the absurdity of it. We are aggressively sold this idea that to find true clarity, you can't just sit down in your own living room.
Oh, absolutely not. That would be too easy.
We're told you need to purchase specialized cushions filled with organic buckwheat.
And you need the right ambiance.
Right. You need an app playing specific sonic frequencies that promise to hack your brainwaves. You need to travel to remote, exotic retreat locations that cost a small fortune.
It's exhausting just thinking about the preparation.
It really is. You need to twist your physical body into elaborately complex postures while surrounded by very specific, aesthetically pleasing, minimalist decorations. We have overly glamorized the pursuit of nothingness to the point where it now requires a massive amount of planning, purchasing, and, well, doing.
We have taken the simplest, most fundamental human capability, the ability to sit quietly with oneself, and wrapped it in a dense myth of extreme complexity.
Why do we do that?
Because the simple truth is harder to sell. And we must firmly dismantle this myth right now because it is preventing a massive portion of the population from ever finding relief.
Please do, because the pressure to, relax correctly or meditate optimally is genuinely just another source of exhausting anxiety.
Here is the direct, unvarnished assertion. You possess absolutely everything you need within your own biological framework at this exact second to achieve absolute stillness.
No purchases required?
None. The very idea of seeking external tools, highly curated external environments, or complex external methodologies to fix an internal overflow is a fundamental contradiction.
It's like trying to fix the leaking plumbing inside your house by painting the exterior walls a calming shade of blue.
That is exactly what it's like.
It might look nice to the neighbors, but the house is still flooding.
Exactly. The outer world, with all its beautiful retreats, ambient playlists, and specialized cushions, is ultimately a fluctuating illusion. It is entirely subject to change, decay, and disruption.
It's not permanent.
Right? What happens when your device loses power and you can't play your sonic frequencies, does your peace just vanish?
Probably, if you rely on it.
True. Unshakable stability can only ever be found by mastering the inner dimension, independent of external props.
And accessing that inner dimension doesn't require a ticket or a subscription fee. It begins with the most basic, profound, universally available physical action.
It is.
The simple act of closing the eyes.
Yes. It's a remarkable human instinct that we completely take for granted.
We really do.
Observe human behavior in moments of intense desire, deep focus, or overwhelming emotion. When a person is desperately trying to remember a profoundly important memory, what is the very first physical thing they do?
They close their eyes automatically.
When a person makes a deeply held wish, or experiences a rare moment of overwhelming, tearful gratitude, or seeks to connect with a higher sense of purpose, the eyelids automatically fall.
It isn't taught, it's just hardwired into us.
It is an instinctual severing of the physical realm. Think about the sheer volume of data the brain processes through vision alone.
It's got to be massive.
Okay.
When my eyes are open, my brain is forced to constantly compute the visual data of my environment. The shifting lighting, the distance of objects, the movement of a shadow in the corner of the room.
It's constant computation.
But the moment I let my eyelids fall, it instantly, drastically shuts down the primary sensory input of that external reality.
You are shutting down the visual cortex's processing load. Closing the eyes is the biological mechanism for crossing the threshold.
It's the gateway.
You are physically stepping out of the noisy, chaotic street of the outer world and walking into the vast, quiet sanctuary of the internal landscape.
Wow.
It is in this inner dimension, and strictly within this inner dimension, that the heavy architecture of your reality, those unprocessed loops, can actually be safely rearranged.
Okay, so we have established the absolute necessity of emptying the vessel, and we've stripped away the manufactured need for external theatrical tools.
We don't need a retreat.
No, we just close our eyes, we enter the sanctuary. But here is where people, and I am absolutely at the top of this list, hit a massive, seemingly impenetrable concrete wall.
The initial resistance.
Yes, when people actually try to just sit in silence, their brain doesn't just quietly, peacefully empty itself. It goes into absolute chaotic overdrive.
Rebels.
Completely. The volume of the loud unawareness seems to crank up to a deafening, unbearable level. Doesn't that mean they are failing at finding peace? Isn't an intensely overactive mind during silence empirical proof that you are doing it wrong?
That is the single greatest misunderstanding of the entire process of mental clearance. And it is the exact, specific reason why the overwhelming majority of people completely abandon the pursuit of stillness after just a few attempts.
Because it feels like failure.
Yes, they radically misinterpret the symptoms of healing as symptoms of catastrophic failure.
Okay, we need to explore this deeply because this is the stumbling block for everyone. What is the actual mechanical goal of sitting in silence? Because we assume the goal is a perfectly blank mind.
And here is the ultimate philosophical and psychological pivot. The goal of sitting in silence is not to force the mind to be clear.
Wait, I want to make sure I heard that right. The goal of stillness is not to force clarity.
Absolutely not. Think about the mechanical definition of forcing something.
Okay, it implies resistance.
Forcing is an aggressive action of resistance. Forcing requires physical and mental tension, strain, and an immense exertion of willpower.
Right.
If your mind is a chaotic tempest, a raging river of dropped stones, and you attempt to forcefully wrestle it into submission by shouting internally, "Stop thinking, be quiet," what are you actually doing?
You are simply introducing a massive, new, highly aggressive form of tension into an environment that is already critically stressed.
Exactly.
You're essentially fighting a hurricane with a sword. It doesn't calm the wind, it just exhausts your arm and leaves you more frustrated than when you started.
That is brilliantly put. Trying to aggressively force clarity is just adding another rigid layer of cognitive processing onto an already overflowing pile.
It's just a new open loop.
You're creating a new open loop called "I must succeed at being perfectly still." The actual methodology of profound stillness, the ultimate alchemy of clearing the mind, is incredibly, almost laughably simple, yet it requires an immense, staggering amount of courage.
Courage. I usually associate sitting still with discipline or relaxation, not courage. Why courage?
Because of what you are about to confront. The method is this. You sit comfortably in a chair, you close your eyes, thereby severing the external visual input, and you do absolutely fundamentally nothing.
Doing nothing sounds wonderfully easy in theory, but as we just established, it feels terrifying and unnatural in practice.
Because you are actively choosing to weather the internal storm. You must understand what happens mechanically when a system that has been in perpetual motion suddenly stops.
Inertia, right.
Yes, for a vast span of time, perhaps an entire lifetime, your mind has been deeply conditioned to constant, unrelenting forward motion.
It expects a new input every second.
It has been trained by modern life to constantly look outward for the next threat, the next urgent message, the next distraction. When you suddenly remove all external input and demand a full, complete stop, the mind goes into a state of withdrawal and panic.
It hates it.
It'll begin to scream.
I know this scream intimately. It starts the very second you try to just sit on the couch without your phone.
The initial pushback.
Yes, the silence is immediately shattered by the most mundane, ridiculous, rapid-fire worries. Like, what am I going to eat later? Did I leave the oven on? I need to respond to that incredibly mundane text from the recent past. My left foot feels slightly itchy.
The mind throws the lightweight stones first, testing your resolve.
That's exactly what it feels like.
It's actively trying to hook your attention, trying to pull you back into the familiar, comfortable rhythm of constant low-level anxiety and motion. It feels safer being busy than being still.
But if you manage to ignore the mundane worries, if you don't take the bait and get up to check the oven, the storm escalates, doesn't it? It doesn't just give up.
Oh, it escalates dramatically.
Huh.
When the mundane, itchy foot distractions fail to break your posture, the overflowing archive realizes it finally has your undivided attention.
And it opens the vault.
Yes, it starts ejecting the heavy, long-forgotten files. The mind plunges straight into deep-seated fears and ancient, highly charged, unresolved loops.
It's heavy stuff.
Suddenly, out of nowhere, you are intensely, viscerally reliving a deeply uncomfortable social interaction from a distant past.
Why did my friend look at me with such disdain?
Or, am I truly capable of achieving any of my long-term goals? What if I fail completely and lose everything?
It is a terrifying, overwhelming onslaught. It literally feels like standing entirely exposed in the middle of a torrential downpour.
Just letting it hit you.
You are just being relentlessly battered by these intensely heavy, emotionally charged thoughts. And the absolute hardest part, the requirement of doing nothing, means you have to willingly sit in this furious, freezing storm without holding up an umbrella.
That is the perfect visualization.
Because you want to grab the umbrella.
Of course you do. Holding up an umbrella would represent the act of cognitively engaging with the thoughts. When a painful, embarrassing thought arises, your immediate human instinct is to judge it.
Right, you think, I shouldn't be thinking about this right now. I am supposed to be finding peace.
Or you try to logically argue with the thought. My friend didn't actually look at me with disdain, they were just tired. Or you try to rapidly solve the career anxiety right then and there with your eyes closed.
But the moment you argue with a thought, the moment you judge it or try to solve it, you are actively picking the heavy stone back up off the riverbed.
You are putting it back into circulation.
You are participating in the loud unawareness. You are fueling the storm.
Yes. You are adding friction to the system. You are opening the loops back up instead of letting them close. The master key to this entire internal alchemy is profound, unyielding observation without engagement.
Cognitive diffusion.
We do call it that sometimes, yes. You simply watch the thought of the mundane dinner rise, peak in intensity, and fade away.
You don't grab it.
You watch the deep-seated fear of failure roar loudly, demand your emotional attention, and when you refuse to fight it, it eventually dissolves back into the ether.
You just let it pass.
You do not touch them. You just let them play out on the movie screen of your mind while you sit safely in the audience.
So by simply observing them without active engagement, something magical, well, biological happens.
The mechanism of processing.
Right. The open loops that were forcefully shoved into the archive during the frantic, busy morning or even during the distant past, they finally get the uninterrupted space to finish their natural trajectory.
They are brought out of the dark archive and into the clear light of your conscious awareness.
And they just evaporate.
Exactly. They are allowed to express their stored emotional energy, and because you aren't fighting them or suppressing them, that energy safely evaporates. The unprocessed thoughts are finally, genuinely, permanently processed. The loop closes.
It's the ultimate mental deep cleaning. You are sitting there on your chair, looking like you were doing absolutely nothing, while internally, the massive filing cabinet is furiously and efficiently emptying itself of years of debris.
And here's the beautiful biological inevitability of this process. Even a fierce tempest has a finite, measurable amount of energy.
It can't last forever.
A storm cannot rage forever. If you weather the internal storm, If you absolutely refuse to add new friction by arguing with the thoughts, eventually the endless tide exhausts itself.
The cognitive load drops.
The heavy, muddy waters spill out of the cup, the cognitive load drops to zero, and the vessel begins to empty.
And what actually happens when the archive is finally emptied? What is left when the screaming finally truly stops?
What remains is a profound, unshakable stillness. It is an internal equilibrium, so deep and so resonant, it feels almost physical in your body.
Like a release of tension.
Yes, your breathing slows, your muscles release. It is a state of pure, unobstructed clarity, completely devoid of the exhausting static of loud unawareness.
It's the moment the thick mud has been entirely flushed out of the system and the vessel is finally empty, clean, and ready to receive something new.
Yes. And it is only from this vast, clear emptiness that true, infinite human potentiality can be accessed.
Only from the emptiness.
Think about it. When your mind is perfectly still, you are no longer broadcasting the chaotic, heavy frequencies of your past traumas or your future anxieties.
You aren't projecting static anymore.
You are broadcasting pure, unadulterated potential. This is the realm where the architecture of your life, your creativity, and your reality can be consciously, effortlessly rearranged.
It's absolutely incredible how our entire cultural understanding of productivity, achievement, and peace has been completely inverted during this conversation.
It really is a 180-degree shift.
We began by looking at a frantic, highly relatable morning routine. A life full of dropped thoughts, hurried, panicked steps, and a relentless pace, all leading to a daily existence that feels entirely chaotic, frustrating, and out of our control.
The standard modern experience.
Yeah, and the default human instinct, the one we are taught from childhood, is to think, if my life is chaotic, if I am failing to keep up, I must move faster. I must buy a new planner. I must organize my schedule better. I must exert more aggressive control over my external environment.
We constantly try to aggressively wipe down and dominate the mirror instead of just changing the source reflection.
Exactly, we fight the reflection. But what we've discovered today is that the true lasting power to shape our existence, to navigate this complex modern reality with grace, doesn't come from a frantic acceleration.
It never comes from acceleration.
It doesn't come from gripping the steering wheel of life any tighter or buying a better set of sensory dampeners.
It comes from the complete, courageous cessation of unnecessary effort. If we deeply reflect on the ultimate state of human prosperity, the highest echelon of personal not defined by acquiring massive, life-altering external rewards.
It's not the giant leap in status, the perfect scenario, or the monumental accumulation of resources.
Those things are merely pleasant byproducts. They are not the core. The most profound, unshakable state of existence a human being can possibly achieve is establishing an internal equilibrium so absolute, so deeply rooted in stillness, that absolutely nothing in the external, constantly fluctuating world has the power to unbalance you.
You become the calm, silent center of the storm, regardless of how violently the winds of the economy or other people's opinions or unexpected traffic are howling outside.
Precisely. Because when you reach that profound state of stillness, when the internal archive is empty and the exhausting roar of loud unawareness is finally silenced, you no longer carry that desperate, heavy emotional dependence on reality changing in order for you to feel safe.
You don't need the traffic light to turn green to feel at peace.
And here is the beautiful ultimate paradox of the human experience. When you no longer emotionally require the external reality to change to suit your anxiety, that is the exact moment reality effortlessly aligns with your highest, most balanced self.
So, as we bring this deep exploration to a close, I want to address you, the listener, directly. We spend so much of our existence striving, fighting, and pushing against the overwhelming, rushing current of our daily lives.
We push so hard.
We exhaust our bodies and our minds trying to forcibly mold our circumstances into something peaceful, sweeping away the dropped stones with sheer force. But what if your greatest barrier to the life you want isn't a lack of effort, but an excess of it?
A fascinating question.
What if the intense friction you are creating by fighting your own thoughts is the very thing holding the chaos in place?
It is a radical, almost uncomfortable proposition for a society obsessed with constant motion. But consider the genuine possibility that the most powerful, world-altering action you can possibly take tomorrow morning isn't to wake up and fight harder against the chaos.
It isn't to optimize your morning routine or acquire a new productivity tool.
No, the most profound shift might simply require you to sit quietly in a chair, Deliberately sever the physical illusion by closing your eyes, and have the sheer, magnificent audacity to do absolutely nothing at all.
Just let the alarm ring in your memory without reacting to it. Feel the rush of the internal storm and simply watch the heavy stones sink to the bottom of the river without diving in to catch them. Sit patiently in the muddy water until it naturally settles and wait for the dust to clear, revealing a completely unobstructed view of your own infinite potential.